behind the shops. They do not qualify within the grant parameters to have money applied to there. So we cannot actually use a grant to do that. However, the town has recognized the need for that, and they've indicated that they would probably place as much as $10,000 toward enhancing that parking area.
Okay, why don't they qualify?
Who is out without the boundaries, beyond the boundaries of our original grant application. So they will only let us do so much. It's also public, or rather, some private property back there, and this grant does not apply to private property.
Okay, so we didn't try to ask them if they wanted to basically donate their property or contribute their property to the county in exchange for, you know, perpetual use and the county fixing it up.
I believe the town has made that inquiry. I'm not sure if every person back there, every landowner back there, but they have made inquiries to see if they could have those kind of relationships. And as my understanding, I'll look toward Mr. Manster.
Thank you.
And they have made that outreach, and we're unsuccessful.
Okay. Mr. Manster, would you like to add anything? I mean,
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. Wilson has summarized the town's position very well. We have contacted the property owners there, and we will be working together to resurface that parking lot and to restripe and to create hopefully additional spaces than there are now.
wow. Okay, so you're basically going to resurface or work with those property owners to try to resurface that area.
That's correct.
And I just thought, I mean, we were creating green space. I thought we were going to kind of work our way through there and be a nice county, town, private, joint partnership deal. But if the town and the private folks want to do it, that's fine. I just thought it was going to be part of this. So that's why I just wanted to make sure.
We hope it'll all be part of the same project, and we'll have some benefit from all activities.
Okay. All right. I think that's it as far as the town's concerned. I appreciate it, Mr. Manster. All right, Mr. Wilson, I understand we're quite a bit, we're at 231,000 or something. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And our local match is 46,000.
Well, probably less.
Probably less, because we've basically pared the project down quite a bit.
We have, sir.
Seem like a good project to you?
Yes, sir, it does.
It does?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I guess my question is, are we sure that, our long-term use where this new proposed parking lots are going to be parking lots? The building that's there is where the extension office is. How long is it going to be there? And I'm a little concerned about, we moved the parking lot from the side of the courthouse because of the expense of the archaeological studies. Where a building existed once before, we tore it down. And now we have to do a survey, archaeological survey. By whose request? Is that something that's part of the grant, or is that, if it's just the county involved, we wouldn't have to worry about that?
Yeah, well,
But it's because it's a state grant, now we have to do this archaeological survey.
well, worse, Mr. Chairman, it's a federal grant.
Oh, even worse.
that the state is administrating. And I only say worse as in that it is more stringent as far as our needing to comply with federal regulations and how the money is to be used. And we have been warned explicitly by VDOT that were we to use the original site, the costs would more than likely be prohibitive.
But we don't have to do an archaeological survey where we're going to put the driveway over here.
No, sir, I don't believe we do.
Okay. Well, we're going to balance our budget, but can't do that in the federal government. Okay, I'm trying to figure out the math on this thing. All right. Good enough. All right. Board members have any ideas how you'd like to proceed? You know, it's still, some of these things seem like they're short-term. Could be long-term. But I just get so frustrated every time I walk over to the court or drive through the court and just see every place is taken up by somebody parks here, somebody else, somebody parks here. And the people have nowhere to park. And we're not getting them any closer, really.
Well, if I'm
in the
looking
process.
if I'm looking at the map correctly, sir, if I may, I think the site where the new parking is to be actually is very close to the courthouse. That's so it would appear to me. But I think Mr. Borashek may, with his engineering background, would probably have a more reliable estimate than I would. But it does look like we're able to provide paved parking near the courthouse with lighting to enhance security and protection of the public. So it seems to, at least as we were attempting to do with this project, to meet the board's goals.
Okay. All right, I think you guys have done a good job trying to work with what we had. But at the same time, it is kind of disappointing that, you know, the original intent was to get the parking for the citizens right next to the courthouse. And it just kind of deviated from that. But 80% money is good no matter when you can get it.
Right. Yes, sir, especially in a recession.
Yeah.
So it's positive.
It is still a lot of benefits. Board members have an idea how you want to proceed? We want,
My thoughts in the beginning is the fact that, yeah, it appears now that the project has really gotten to be a cosmetic project for the town of Bowling Green, and I'm not opposed to making cosmetic improvements to the town of Bowling Green by any means. But in the beginning, we did have other intentions in mind that were going to benefit the citizens more than I think this what has been presented here tonight is going to give. But again, if we're only going to have to invest another $16,000 or something thereabouts into this project, over and above what's already been invested of county money, it will be a worthwhile project to do.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know that we have most of the numbers here. I would ask that we defer this until we at least have the exact final numbers with the contingencies and all the other stuff that Mr. Wilson mentioned, so that we can make a determination on what the final cost is going to be. Because I'd rather see the contingency put in and all that stuff. If we could defer it at least to the next meeting, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
I'll agree with that. I don't know that I've ever seen a project
Well, I think
that
that's-
I can remember that did not have some additional cost involved over and above what was talked about. And with there being no contingency funds included here, I agree with Mr. Popowitz. I think we need to look a little closer to it and see what the actual cost is going to be.
Could I follow up on that a little bit?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Vice
Mr.
Chairman.
Wilson, theoretically, the project was originally $458 million. Now you, yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I was federal for a minute. 458,000. So what you're saying is we're down to 200 and some thousand. In response to Mr. Popowitz and Mr. Akers, if for whatever reason there was another $100,000 worth of cost in this project, you know, by mistake, whatever, would there still be 80-20 match because we haven't hit the original grant?
Yes, sir,
Maximum?
you do. You do, and it's my understanding that your match money was sequestered through a loan that can only be used for that purpose.
Right, well, it's not necessarily match money I'm worried about, because if it's 80-20,
Yes, sir.
if that 80% is still going to be available, because once we start this project, do we have to tell the federal government that we're starting the project, it costs $250,000, we're moving ahead? will they say anything over $250,000 is your problem, or will they say, well, you really had up to 450,000, we'll let you go up until 450,000? Now, I'm fairly cynical anyhow, so I just want to make sure we understand the parameters.
Oh, we have been awarded the $458,000, and that is what we can draw down.
So it's your understanding that we can go ahead with this project and spend up to $458,000, but
Yes,
we
sir.
have to provide that local
But
match.
if you would like a contingency that brings us up to the full amount, we could make a contingency
Well-
to be the entire grant amount and simply spend what needs to be spent, which should be considerably less than what was awarded to us.
My only concern, this is the last thing, my only concern is to protect us, because if we tell the government we're spending $250,000, even though they're giving us $450,000, anything over that should still be 80-20 match.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need that confirmed, and if you can do that, since you're going to wait, if you can do that, then I'll feel really good. I mean, I want to move ahead with the project, but I want to know if I got to give up 20 cents or I got to give up $1.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. So,
Okay.
what do you want to do?
All right, we'll have room on the next agenda for that, Mr. Ashcraft? All right, that's what we'll do. All right, thank you, Mr. Wilson. All right, next we'll move on to the supervisor reports from the liaison for each area. Education and public safety. Under education, Mr. Ashcraft and I did meet with the school board chairman and superintendent last week, and just discussed various items. And they are interested in looking at some ideas of possibly having to fund a few buses before the next CIP project, and I just want to make us aware of that. Also, they have the school back to school start program with the teachers that's coming up. The teachers that are returning and the new teachers, I believe it's next week, next Monday, and I will be attending that session. And Ms. Ashcraft, what else do we have with the superintendent's report?
I think Mr. Chairman, the issues of the funding will be brought back on the September 14th agenda. I've asked the superintendent to attend and explain the agenda item that the board took up a couple meetings ago involving the 286-444 or something, and then the 192 that was supposedly for advanced teachers' pay, which we clarified with them,
Right.
but I feel like the other board members need an opportunity to ask questions regarding that.
Right, and we did ask them to lay it out in writing so we can explain it, to articulate it to you guys, what they were doing with the funding mechanism.
And Dr. Killo will also be asked to update the CIP projects, particularly the security matters that are within the schools. They hope to have all those things done by the beginning of school. It's a tight time frame for them, but they're still working hard, and we encouraged on those matters for him to involve the sheriff's office, as was outlined by the board. At the time of that meeting, that had not been done. So he said that he would contact the sheriff and get him involved. And again, as you said, the issue with the school buses, there is a state law that says that school buses have to be replaced either 12 years or so much miles on the bus. They have, I believe, at least a dozen that may be falling in that category very, very soon. And that was the critical CIP issue that they discussed. They really didn't get into buildings or expansions or anything like that.
And they did also discuss that there's legislation to try to reduce the number, like the miles per bus. Like right now it's 125,000 miles. legislation out to make it, less than that, more like, 100,000 miles. So just kind of like an unfunded mandate. So hopefully, that won't pass, so we got to make sure we bring it up to our assembly members to make sure that doesn't happen, because with a good maintenance program, these buses can go pretty good.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, two final points. The central accounting system.
Right.
They have agreed to a follow-up meeting, as we discussed at the chairman's meeting, and that will hopefully take place after the beginning of school to give them an opportunity to get school kicked off, and then we can have a good discussion. And then the joint purchasing matters, that committee will actually meet at 9 a.m. in the morning to go over the details of all the departments and how they're starting to work together along those lines.
Okay. All right. Certainly, and then from the emergency services side, we did have of course, everyone's aware of the SAFER grants and the process that we're going through in that. The Emergency Management Group also participated in the emergency services during the Boy Scout Jamboree, and we had a lot of folks over there working under the previews of the statewide EMS and working with the Boy Scouts. Also, we completed the North Anna Power Drill on July 20th. Also, we're starting to meet and plan the processes for working with the 2010 State Fair. Training department has been awarded a firefighter 1, 2, and hazmat material operations class by the Virginia Department of Fire Programs. And they're all the core curriculums to get a new firefighter where they can actually work for us. That's all the core curriculum for them to do that. And for the month, we had 187 fire calls, 368 EMS calls during July. And Saturday has been the busiest day for fire and EMS calls. And that's all that I have on my reports. Communications, Technologies, and Public Works.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, for Public Works, I'm not sure if the board has gotten the rest of the report, but for the highlights, the Port Royal Visitor Center, which we're working on now, there's been a building permit received, and they're basically, due to new leadership at VDOT, they're going to have to resubmit those to staff, so it's probably going to be a little bit delayed. The old Commissioner of Revenue's office, the painting has been completing, and I believe there's still a few more minor details to take care of, one minor detail to take care of. I knew there was a couple. And then there are the convenience sites, which as of last week, the board changed to being closed Wednesday and maintaining the same hours. I haven't received any questions or complaints. I don't know if anybody else has. So it appears like we finally, after a couple of times, we got the right one, and it looks like that's working. And we have to make a couple of things, a decision on what to do with the cannery, which I think we're going to discuss, and the Dawn Library is the other project that's on the agenda and the radar as far as Public Works that we've got to discuss what to do. And with respect to technology, we really didn't meet last month or this month due to the schools being closed. So since they're a key point, we will have a meeting in September. Mr. Wilson has been working, so I wanted to make sure I gave him the credit, has been working behind the scenes to continue the, I guess, the process of having the original vendor we talked to expand in the county. So we're at still the talking stage and really haven't gotten any real action yet, but we are at least talking, and we'll continue. And as far as technology committee itself, as I said, we'll meet in September. Try to get one thing that we need to do is a general understanding census survey of all the computer types we've got out there. And in light of what Mr. Popwood said before, try to get some sort of joint purchasing so we're all using the same thing and maybe saving money. So that's my report for this month, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay, Finance, Recreation, and Planning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. From the finance side, Ms. Hatch has been working on reconciliations in preparation for the 2010 audit. The preliminary audit field work began on July 14th, and she's anticipating closing June at the end of the year by mid-August to late August. As a result of the preliminary audit field work, several new procedures have been implemented in the Finance Department, and she's working with several departments on the purchasing policy. Once approved, we'll be able to go out to bid on a purchasing card system. And as Mr. Ashcraft said earlier, there is a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss with the schools a joint purchasing program. On the Parks and Rec, the department is currently accepting registrations for the upcoming fall soccer season for boys and girls ages 4 to 18. The British soccer camp was offered again this summer for children between the ages of 5 and 16, and it was quite successful. The department has agreed to become a partner in the bringing of the Special Olympics soccer tournament again to Caroline this coming fall, and the event will be scheduled for Saturday, October the 9th at the Recreational Park facility. The summer camp program that we had this year, of course, is approaching its deadline of completion. August 13th is the deadline. Mr. Howard did not report how successful that was, how many participants we had, and where they were majorly. How many? 50 participants. Did we work two?
All on the western side of the county.
So all we're on the western side. So we appreciate your support on that program. Under planning and community development, the Route 207 and 652 relocation project continues ahead of schedule. Based on Mr. Charlie Stunkel when he was the administrator here, on his estimates as to completion date. Mike and his staff is working with VDOT on traditional neighborhood development, TND street standards, in support of the approved TNDs in the county, as well as for future development in the designated growth areas. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on the proposed regulations at its August 25th meeting. The Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, the Fredericksburg Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Federal Transit Administration, and the county staff continue to finalize the scope of work for the multimodal transportation station. The scope of work has been changed from an environmental impact statement to an alternatives analysis to meet the requirements of the FTA. Staff and VDOT have started the analysis and designation of one or more urban development areas in the county as required by the Code of Virginia. Caroline County is considered a high-growth locality based upon its rate of growth and amount of growth, and must designate one or more of its growth areas as a UDA by September of 2011. Staff is participating in a regional scenario planning process in conjunction with the George Washington Regional Commission. The process will look at different development scenarios for county as well as the region, and will identify the cost of the different development scenarios. Staff continues to monitor additional environmental water quality regulations from both the state and federal governments for impacts to Caroline County. And I think that concludes my report for the three departments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Akers. Economic Development, Utilities, and Town of Port Royal.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to point out that we had a successful Boy Scout Jamboree at Fort A.P. Hill. There were very few glitches in that process, concerning the fact we had 45,000 citizens or people come to our location here at Fort A.P. Hill, including staff and Boy Scouts, about 36,000 scouts and about 9,000 staff plus visitors. So thought that was a success. Something else, the McKesson project was announced by the Commonwealth of Virginia, which I thought was an excellent thing for us in Caroline County, and I actually got to see it on one of the news stations, so I was real happy to see that, something positive coming out of Caroline County. Finally, going back to the Boy Scouts, one of the engineers that is involved with the new site in West Virginia came out to the Dawn site to look at our sewer facility out there and possibly use that at the West Virginia site as their alternative sewer system, and was real impressed with how we had that system working and the cost analysis that we've done on it. So just a kudos to Dawn's system and what that has accomplished and what that has meant to the county. Thank you. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Popowitz. Town of Bowling Green.
All I want is the vendors, I mean, all the merchants in town were really, I think, a great couple of weeks with the Boy Scout Jamboree, and I think everything went well. So other than that, nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and we appreciate all the reports, and certainly I talked about the Boy Scout Jamboree and talking to the, Mr. Pritchett and different ones and their mission, and you have to give those guys a lot of credit, with their move to West Virginia, and it's the best thing for the Boy Scouts, that they can have a place of their own. It makes so much sense that they invest millions of dollars each time they have an event, and it's not in their own place. So I can understand, why they're doing what they're doing after spending time with those guys and talking to them to understand, the main reason that they're trying to get their own place.
If I may.
Absolutely.
We, in our discussions with Dave, who is the engineer that I spoke to, we did mention to him that we would be interested as a county, I believe, if there was some sort of high adventure park from the Boy Scouts, that we'd like at least consideration for Caroline County, since we have been such a partner with them. And he said that there probably are windows of opportunity that he can help us open. And so we are going to continue to work with the Boy Scouts even beyond the Jamboree to see if there's some opportunities there that would be of more permanent nature. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next, we have appointments of Board of Zoning Appeals. Are we ready to act on that one this evening?
I wasn't, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't.
Okay. All right, how about the Board of Equalization?
I'm not ready to act on that.
Okay, we got okay. All right, we just need to wrap those up.
BZA.
For Social Services Board, if someone would make a motion to appoint Mrs. Sherry James.
Move
So
that we
moved.
appoint Ms. Sherry James.
Right.
Either one. Second.
Motion made.
Second.
Probably second. All those in favor of appointing Sherry James to fill the Reedy Church seat on the Social Services Board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same.
We are truly going to miss your former member,
Irene Fields.
Irene Fields, because she was really absolutely fabulous to work with. So from the Social Services Board, I want to thank her for her service, and Mr. Roselle, thank you for appointing her for so many years.
Yeah, and we'll, maybe we can get her here to do that personally, Mr. Ashcraft. And, because I know she has served probably like 20 years on that board.
She goes 2 terms. Off. 2 terms.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda items. Board members, how you'd like to proceed?
Make a motion, we approve consent agenda as presented.
My only question is C, and I don't know that I understand C enough as to what they're all about.
Expedite.
Mike, can you give us a quick update on that?
I don't know what C is.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, this is a special exception request for a used car dealership. It's located on Route 301 North, just before you get into the town of Port Royal, on the right-hand side. Old tan building there, used to be a car dealership. By ordinance now, used cars only require a use permit.
Okay.
This would have gone to public, or come to public hearing at the board on August 24th if you were having a second meeting in August. However, with your new board schedule, it got pushed back to what would normally be your September 28th meeting. They have submitted a letter requesting that, if possible, the board go ahead and consider this 2 weeks early.
Okay. All right, motion made and probably second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Jeff seconded?
Jeff made
I made it.
I'll second.
I thought it was seconded, wasn't
Yeah, you did second it, but
Yeah,
you made it and he seconded.
Right.
it? Okay.
All right. All right, all in favor again, say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Opposed, same.
Okay.
All right, motion carries.
Thanks, sir.
You got my back, I got yours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see, I think that's all we have. We'll take a
10-minute break.
10-minute recess. County Board of Supervisors will now reconvene, and at this,
Mr. Chairman.
yes, sir,
excuse me.
Mr. Vice Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, we neglected to add to the consent agenda a ordinance request that Mr. Fincham had given me late, and I really want to ask the board to refer this to the Planning Commission with a recommendation back to the Board of Supervisors by September 16th, so we can vote on September 28th. If there's any question about the proposed amendment, I'll be happy to pass it on, but if we could add that to the consent agenda we just passed, I would appreciate it. I think you've got it? Yeah, you've got it.
Yeah, I think we all have it.
Is there any objection, and we could add that to the minutes? So I make a motion, we add this to the consent agenda passed as agenda item E.
Second?
Okay, motion made and probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same.
Thank you, sir.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. All right, next we do have our public comment period, and this is the time we take for citizens who would like to address the board on any matter. And if you would, please come forth and just state your name and your voting district. And there's a 3-minute time limit, and if there's a group, there is a 5-minute time limit for the individual group. So at this time, if there are any citizens who would like to address the board on any matter, Chief, I understand you would like to address the board, so why don't you go first?
Good afternoon, board members and ma'am. Person. My name is Doug Terry, and I'm with Sparta Volunteer Fire Department from downtown Sparta. It's been a while, I guess, since I come up here and spoke with y'all, and all I want to do tonight is basically give y'all an update on the happenings in Sparta and what's going on. Since I last, I guess, been up here, our chief has resigned, Art Singer has resigned from Sparta, and I have inherited the job for a while longer yet, so that's no problem there. Art's done a real good job for us in getting us updated on new county policies, new state policies, new federal regulations and stuff, and this really is helping us, Sparta get back in the organizational skills that he has. Really made a big difference to us. We've wanted to update you on our building plans in Sparta for the new station. Since I became chief, I had several calls from people in the community to say, hey, what's going on? It's not really people in our department, but people in the community. So, we kind of met, and I kind of give them an update. I called and talked to Jeff there, to see exactly where we did stand, because I was a little, hadn't visited for a while myself. So, right now, everything's on hold with the county situation where it is, the economy and everything. We understand all that. And I'm not here to ask you guys for money tonight. And that's not it at all. Just want to brief you on this thing. We revisited the whole station project from the ground up, basically. We went through the county efforts. The county, as you know, in the past 3 years, they tried to come in and build a building for us, and we met with architects and stuff. Ended up with a $4.2 million building. No. We got it down to a $3-point-something million building. We knew that wasn't going to fly, and you guys said, that's not going to fly. That's not what we need in Sparta. We went from what we wanted was a metal building originally, something very similar to Station 6, and now we've been circled and we come back to that metal building. In this packet, you'll see that with the people of the community who helped put this thing together, we met back with talked with Watts and stuff, who's going to do site work, Webb, who does the drawings, site work plans, the whole 9 yards, the building chief building manufacturers who's going to erect the building, the inside guys who's going to do all the framing and stuff on the inside, all these guys live in the area, live in the Caroline County area. We also went out and applied for a stimulus grant to help pay for this building, to pay for the whole thing. And that thing got drug on and on and on, and finally we did get turned down for that stimulus money. And that's when everything kind of bottomed out, and we knew, hey, you know, everything's hard times. We have to wait for a while. That's no problem. Right now, we revisited all the site work plans, the whole 9 yards on building the building, and we come up with a little less than $1 million on this thing. We still got a few figures to iron out and put together, but you know, for $1 million, we can definitely build this building and have a fairly good sized structure, as you'll see when you take your homework assignments home with you tonight. It'll give you a little something to do. Our philosophy on this thing was, it's a building for the community, and it's a building that should be built by the people in the community, and that's why we went out and seek advice and help, architectural type plans from people who do this kind of stuff, who live in this Caroline area. And we're going to spend money, this kind of money. I feel like the people in Caroline ought to have that stimulus package, you know, for them to work with and stuff. So that's where we stood on that. We just feel like that since it's a community project, man, we can do so much more with $1 million community-wise than you guys as a county can do with that type of money. I mean, y'all went out with the building concept, and it ended up being $3 million. We're around $1 million, so that's like a 3-to-1 ratio there. So that's where we stand, and we just wanted to update you on that, and to keep it forefront and know when you know things change around, and hopefully remember us in your CIP. But right now, our primary goal, I think, in the next few months is to go out and seek alternative funding. Jeff's going to be working with some of his political folks on seeking out some new grants. Even spoke with Dave about it, and he's got 1 or 2 sources he's going to be checking out. We're in that floodplain, and you know, no matter what, sooner or later it's going to flood again. You know, flooded in late 60s, and nothing has changed. There's more rooftops, so she's gonna hit us again. Thank y'all very much.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And board members, I would like to ask, normally we don't give any feedback, you know, during the public comment period, but is it okay, majority of the board allow me to do that? And I certainly would say to Chief, you know, I talked to you guys when we had $1 million in the budget for you guys. I called Hilton, yourself, and the prior chief, and talked about that. And we did say back then that, you know, when times come around, that y'all get your building plans ready to come back and approach the board. And certainly I hope you can, you know, continue to work through the chief and, you know, come back to the board with a presentation of what you guys are interested in doing. And we'll get you on the agenda, okay? And then we can look at what you need, because I know I can tell you there's a commitment up here that's going to support you guys. It was a commitment earlier in the year, and there's still that commitment. So, you know, if you would, just work with the chief, and we'll get you on our agenda in the very near future, okay? Sure. All right. But we'll certainly get you on the agenda, and we'll work through that, because. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other citizens who would like to address the board on any matter? State your name and your voting district, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Frank G., Bowling Green District. And I just want to echo Mr. Terry's comments and just urge the board that as soon as the volunteers are ready, because the entire Sparta community does support having a firehouse built down there as soon as possible. I know the volunteers have been working diligently to get that done, and they should be ready, I think, shortly with the plans as he's pointed out. And I would just urge you that as soon as they are ready to have an agenda item, hopefully by your September board meeting, they can come before you and maybe talk about the funding and getting the $1 million there for the firehouse. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any other citizens who'd like to address the board?